Welcome to the No BS Podcast, the gaming news podcast where we dish the sugarcoating and give it to you straight. I'm Blake.
And I'm Steve.
And if you're looking for real talk without the BS, you've come to the right place. Before we jump in, don't forget to stay connected with us. Follow us on X at No BS Podcast GG for all the latest updates and hot takes. Check out our YouTube channel at No BS Podcast GG and be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're also on TikTok at No BS Podcast GG throughout the week, so make sure to stop on by and say what's up. Love what you're hearing? Show your support by liking this episode, dropping a comment with your thoughts, and subscribing to keep up with all our future content. This week we focus on the Sweet Baby Inc. curse, Concord's financial burden, the Ubisoft strike, a Cyberpunk TV show, the new Dragon Ball roster, and Qiddiya City. Alright, let's cut to the BS and get into today's episode. Welcome everyone to the No BS Podcast. It's been a pretty eventful week to say the least. So to hop into things, Steve, how's your week been and what games have you been up to or been playing recently?
It's been pretty good. I haven't had a whole lot of time, so a lot of my gaming time, I kind of got sucked back into Lost Ark recently, not really having anything specific to play. We spent some time playing A Way Out for a couple hours, so that was pretty fun. But yeah, other than that, just a lot of Lost Ark, a little bit of WoW, nothing too crazy. How about you?
So yeah, like you mentioned, we played A Way Out, and we're playing it on our YouTube. That game, it was funny. I was showing Megan it. It's actually like one of the first games I played that was kind of like, it's not necessarily like turn-based, but like every kind of action you did, kind of developed the story in like a different way. So it was cool playing that. I never played that kind of game before, so I'm glad you kind of showed me that. So I actually got an invite to test out the alpha of Fate Trigger, which is an anime shooter / BR game developed by Ceroasis Studios. It doesn't have a release date yet, but it's a super similar layout to Apex with kind of how the loot looks on the ground. And each squad can only have one specific character. It's like they all have different abilities and special powers and stuff like that. So I played a few games of it, and I was honestly kind of impressed. So like the shooting mechanics felt really smooth, and I liked the look of the guns. Now the map was like super open, so it's not like that super campy like you see in like PUBG and stuff like that. And in the map, there were 3 different, like, almost like what I'd call, like, zones or, like, areas. So you can take, like, these big portals, and they kind of take you to each part of them as, like, that zone shrinking in. And, like I said, it follows your typical BR mechanic where you have, it's like an electric force field that's shrinking in. Now, the only thing I didn't like about it was they did have cars, and the cars had, like, their own little special abilities, but the car steering felt super unsmooth and glitchy. But, for a game that still has a ways to be released, I actually enjoyed the few games that I played. So if you're looking for a possible new BR to replace, Warzone, Fortnite, or Apex, this might be the game for you. And I definitely recommend trying to get in on the playtest or at least check it out when it comes out for beta. So to hop into our first segment here, we talk about this company quite a bit, and it's Sweet Baby Inc. So, they're known for quote-unquote wokeifying games, and they've been in the headlines again recently because there's an employee by the name of Cameron Wild who's a writer and, according to his bio, a quote sensitivity editor within the company, and he was giving a presentation where he basically, in his own words, admitted to his goal was to burn the gaming industry to the ground, or burn the games industry to the ground. Now, this individual has credits on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Alan Wake 2, and a few others. And I'm just going to give you a quick quote of what he said. During the presentation, he said, a lot of us who are fighting for more inclusive games and storytelling don't have a choice when it comes to discomfort. A lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice, which makes this really hard often. But recently, I started realizing that discomfort, or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live, is where some of the best stories are told, and it's where genre storytelling lives. Now, my interpretation of that is basically saying that this person's saying that the best stories are games where whiteness isn't. So what do you think about that, Steve?
It's such a weird thing that's going on, not just in gaming, but in the entire world. It just feels like everyone is offended if you're not a person of color. Basically, there's some big vendetta against white people, and that's kind of what I got from this presentation. They were kind of I don't know if you got to see the whole thing, but it kind of turned into this weird rant about like Quentin Tarantino on how
Yeah.
he basically shouldn't be allowed to make these types of films because he doesn't understand how to tell a black person's story.
You talk about Django, right? Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy to me, and it's so insane that it's kind of come to this point where it's the way to combat racism is to be racist. It just doesn't make sense to me. So it's pretty cool to see when now you're kind of starting to see companies push back, and there's been a lot of employees, recent or ex Sweet Baby Inc. employees that are coming out and saying that it's basically impossible for them to get jobs after they leave Sweet Baby Inc. because they've kind of been blacklisted from the industry. No one wants to hire any of these people because there's so much negativity that has surrounded them in the past.
Yeah, dude, I think it's honestly kind of absurd how this kind of behavior is almost, like you said, almost kind of like becoming the new normal, and it's being allowed and tolerated in industry, in any industry. And like you said, they were talking about Tarantino with Django, and what he had said was that it wasn't his story to tell. Now I think that's completely absurd, because it's like who cares what race the director is. It's insane. Now again, we've talked about this a bit. There's nothing wrong with diversifying games and having a character who's black or white or gay or straight or trans or whatever, but this is like taking it to like that whole other level. It's very funny. It's not funny. It's very, very awkward. And like you mentioned, it's like these people who are coming from this company aren't able to find jobs now, because there's a lot of companies who are like, we don't want anything to do with Sweet Baby Inc. Because I mean, look at the games that they've had their names attached to that are failing because of them over wokeifying. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Alan Wake 2. There's tons of them that have been destroyed because of their wokeness. I mean, and I know we talked that it's okay in certain aspects, like Baldur's Gate, but like they're taking it like too far, right?
Yeah, they're kind of trying to shift the narrative, and that's literally their MO. They kind of state this. They want to kind of turn the gaming industry to its side and kind of force them to understand that this is how narrative should be written. There is no black and white. And I kind of went through it in that YouTube channel that hosted the initial presentation. I went through and I watched some other videos and a lot more like Sweet Baby Inc. Employees that were sitting there and presenting. And like another one of the stories was kind of how you need to create a character that is hateable. Basically, that is the only way for a narrative to work. It's impossible to make a character that's likable, because in terms when you're making a character that's likable, it creates something that's too easily to predict, versus it doesn't really give you anything to surprise you in a sense.
Yeah.
Which, from my perspective, when I'm listening to, or when I'm watching something, a story, a movie, or playing a game and enjoying the story, I want to be able to connect with the main character. I want to be able to like the main character.
Yeah.
So if I have a situation where I just completely hate the character, a lot of the times I'll honestly just stop playing the game. So it doesn't make any sense, like where they're coming from, and the fact that companies continue to hire them is insane to me. Like you said, no game has really succeeded with that. Sweet Baby Inc. As a co-signer, basically everything that they've touched has kind of turned to shit.
Oh, I mean, most definitely. And now, so there was that article that was put out by Bounding Into Comics, where Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, the development studios, Square Enix, they actually appeared to end their working relationship with Sweet Baby Inc. because their logo is no longer listed on the official website under Sweet Baby Inc.'s clients. And in the article, this company goes on to say that Sweet Baby Inc. is an entity whose employees regularly deride their core audience. So like I'm glad that these companies are kind of seeing Sweet Baby Inc. for what it is, and it'd be nice if more companies did it. And then speaking of companies that are kind of almost lashing back at Sweet Baby Inc., well, you had Black Myth Wukong, the developer Game Science, they went on to say, we don't care how you feel, we're gonna make the game the way we want, and we don't care about your feelings. And that's kind of funny because Sweet Baby Inc. were actually making sexist attacks and slander against the Black Myth Wukong developers for refusing political correctness. So it's like it's becoming absurd, and I think more companies need to follow suit and withdraw. So what do you think about that?
No, yeah, I mean, I agree. I definitely think, and we've kind of spoken about it a lot to an extent. I feel like every other week we're talking about Sweet Baby Inc., but there's just so much that's going on with this company that I feel like we just have to talk about it. It's funny because their thing is they want to, anyone that's not conforming to their way of being, they basically want them to disappear from the industry. And this is kind of what the entire gaming community wants from Sweet Baby Inc. They want them to disappear from the industry. It's crazy, but again, like it just makes perfect sense. And now more and more companies are starting to stop working with them. They're, again, like, it's great to see. I love it.
Yeah, well, like you said, if you were to do just a quick little Google search of Sweet Baby Inc., there's forum upon forum of gamers just like the Sweet Baby Inkers. Every game they touch is ruin and fail. Like, we're tired of the wokeness. It's nice to see that. So we were just talking about Concord. So yeah, I think it was last week we were talking about how much money they didn't have an exact number, how much money Sony actually lost out or spent on the development of this game. So it came out on Dexerto.com that allegedly cost Sony $400 million, and I guess the game was supposed to be the future of PlayStation. Now, there was a lot riding on the success of the game. Now, I did learn that they're still supposed to have Concord in. There's supposed to be an episode of it with the Secret Level TV show that we were talking about, the gaming show. Now, you have this, on top of it now, the director of Concord, Ryle Ellis, he's stepping down, and they're kind of all right now in limbo, waiting for Sony's decision on the game's future. Now, do you think that Sony should just wipe the slate clean and do away with everything that's Concord, their developers and all that stuff like that, or do you think they should kind of like give them a chance to see what else they can do and maybe bounce back?
So it's funny because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, where we kind of were saying Sony doesn't really have that universally identifiable character. They don't have Mario. They don't have a Master Chief. They have a lot of really good IPs, but when you think of Sony, there's not one specific character that you can kind of gravitate towards. And that's what Sony was aiming to do with Concord. They wanted it to be their Star Wars. They wanted it to be a universe that they could kind of fall back into all the time. It's crazy that they just didn't see everything that was wrong with the game. I'm pissed at myself that I can't remember what podcast it was that this guy was talking about it. He's the guy that actually kind of broke the story. He used to be a journalist, and now he kind of hosts. He's just a commentator, basically, a video game commentator, and he talks about all these different video games and what's going on. And he was connecting with a source that worked with the game, and they were basically saying like it was a mess. A couple months, or it was like a year or two before, a couple months or something like that, before it was even supposed to come out, the game wasn't even close to being ready, and they already had this predetermined set release date, so they kind of had to play some crazy damage control and invest another $200 million into this game just to try to get it to be functioning. And that's insane. Like the fact that they were so blinded by everything that was going on, and the fact that no one could say anything negative about this game because the CEO was such a big defender of this franchise that it just kind of created this toxic positivity thing going on. And it baffles me again. Like, I just don't know if Sony can really recover Concord. It doesn't seem savable to me.
Well, you were saying too that they should really use the release of this game as kind of like a case study, because we've talked about Overwatch, right, with the heroes, like you had like the connection to them, and like Concord, like you say, they weren't releasing anything on their heroes, so you didn't really have that connection to the characters. Now it's funny,
and I get it.
Who you was here? You go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, and I get it. They had plans to release a bunch of content that really kind of helped you connect and build some sort of rapport with the characters. However, it's like they kind of tend to forget, like you need a good product in the first place to be able to kind of use that to build from there. And the initial presentation was just completely awful, that no one wanted to no one wanted to invest any time or anything at all into this game.
Yeah, so do you think they should just do away with everything Concord, the employees, or do you think they should like keep them around?
I think the employees are still talented. Like, again, they still designed a very pretty game. From everything I got, all the videos I watched, the gameplay actually was enjoyable. It's just at this point in time, you just can't really compete with the rest of the industry in this genre. The hero shooter, there's just so many to choose from that it doesn't make sense for someone to invest $40 to play a game that's I can play for free.
Yeah, no, you're right. Now, some employees were actually asked kind of how they felt right now about the whole situation, and I guess a mass majority of them are pretty pessimistic that Concord's going to return, and then I guess some of them have even been tasked to explore pitches that they might work on next. Now, there are a big majority of them, too, that think that there actually may be layoffs for the studio, and, they employ about 150 people, so I feel like the future is kind of uncertain. I mean, like you said, they definitely did put a lot of work into the game. I know the devs were praised by people for, how good the game was looked and stuff like that, but it just wasn't, I don't know. I didn't play it, I didn't buy it, I wasn't really interested in it. But like I said, in a genre where you have all these free-to-play options, if they would have released this, again, back when Overwatch, the first Overwatch was out, then they may have had a better chance.
Yeah,
now it's like no.
And it really sucks to see, because we've been riddled by layoffs left and right. I feel like every other day you're hearing about a different layoff. So when these people's jobs is at stake, it's rough to see, and you never want to see it. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like a failure in leadership happened, and the easiest way for them to kind of save face is to let go of a bunch of people and try and preserve that leader, because ultimately that's who they've invested in the most.
Yeah, no, you're right with that. So to hop in this next one, another the company that's been having issues is Ubisoft. Now, according to Yahoo Finance, they're having issues with the possibility of a strike over their return to office plan, which I guess would require them to go to the office 3 days a week. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, no, they got to come to work. Well, the thing is that for over 5 years now, they've been in like a remote work situation. And the main gripe is that many of their employees have built their lives around that, work from home lifestyle. And in my honest opinion, I think with, how much the Ubisoft stock has dropped, I mean, it's dropped like over 10%. That maybe the company needs to look at ways of cutting costs. If they don't need them in the office, why not, free that space up for something else, or even better, like look at selling the building, and getting something smaller. Like on one hand, I agree that it shouldn't be that big of a deal to have to show up to work, but if it's been a remote position for over 5+ years now, how do you just change things up? Especially with the union. Now, I'm in a union, and every union, you have a contract with the company. So I wonder if like there's something in the contract that's stating you can't force them back to work, or it has to go through negotiations or something like that. But if they're willing to strike over it, I'm guessing that Ubisoft is probably violating the terms of that contract. So what do you think about all that stuff? Do you think it should be that big of a deal for them to come back, or do you think that they should just keep staying as like a work from home position?
I mean, I'm a big proponent of working remote. I think in certain industries, there's definitely a lot of times where you can be a lot more productive when you're alone and working from home in a comfortable area. You don't have to worry about commuting. You don't have to worry about taking time out of your day to get food, breakfast, coffee, whatever. It's all kind of readily available for you. If you're able to do the same level of work from home, then why not? I think the biggest issue with this is Ubisoft has had a lot of complaints regarding the quality of their games. So it does kind of make sense that they're trying to shake things up and bring the people back in. I'm not 100% sure what the legalities are surrounding whether or not they can bring them back with the union and whatever their contract is, but I'm sure Ubisoft has some pretty great lawyers, and they've probably talked with them about it beforehand.
They gotta have looked through it.
They probably made sure that this was something that was doable and within their rights, and they saw an opportunity to try and improve quality, which makes sense. I think there's a humongous lack in oversight when you're working remote. It's just so easy to just be able to disconnect and forget what's going on when you're very easily distracted by everything that you have in your house. I know I've worked remote a couple times throughout the pandemic, and it was very simple for me to just go from working to, okay, now I'm playing a video game. Okay, now I'm watching TV.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that's really kind of forcing you to work. But again, like Ubisoft, the last couple years has just kind of gone down the drain. Like we just saw the new Assassin's Creed get delayed, and again they stated the game's finished, but they really want to focus on improving the quality. They don't want another Star Wars Outlaw release where people enjoyed the game, but there was a lot of issues with quality, a lot of bugs, and that's the last thing that they want, especially for a company like Ubisoft that is basically a sinking ship. Like they almost
afford it. Another flop.
Yeah, they're almost at the point where they have no choice but to go private if they want to continue to do something. Otherwise, they're going to go out of business, and it's crazy because another victim of DEI, where people were extremely upset about the main character in the Assassin's Creed, the new Assassin's Creed game, and a lot of people are kind of contemplating and saying, is this the reason that they're delaying it? They want to remove the black character from the game and basically turn it into a Japanese character. So who knows what's the reason they delayed it? If they say the game is complete, then it doesn't make sense for them to spend another 4 or 5 months to check on the quality of a game if you're saying it's done.
Yeah, I feel like it shouldn't take that long. Maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, so that's why I think a lot of people are kind of conspirizing that that they're removing the main character, the black dude.
I mean, maybe they're realizing they don't need to go the whole woke movement, woke way.
Yeah, who knows?
So how about this next one? I know you're probably excited about this one. Netflix has confirmed a new Cyberpunk animated project with CD Projekt Red is in development, and this article was put out by IGN. Now, Cyberpunk joins a long list of upcoming TV shows based on video games. Now, there is no definitive date, but it's another show for everybody to get excited for. So now the first season actually came out in 2022, and it was so well received by fans that they were basically begging for another season of Cyberpunk. So I know you're a huge fan of Cyberpunk, Steve. So how do you feel about the news of another Cyberpunk TV show?
I'm incredibly excited. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the first season of Cyberpunk Edge Runners,
No, honestly, I haven't seen it.
but it's a masterpiece. I would say it does like a really incredible job of immersing you into the world of Night City, and as a viewer, you kind of begin to understand that no matter what, you're struck by the fact that you just can't escape who you are, and you're one of the big things that they always said in the game. It's like you're either gonna die a legend or you're gonna die a nobody. So you get to see that. It's you see the main character who is constantly having to challenge himself, and the idea that there's this predetermined goal that everyone kind of sets on him, whether it's his mom wanting him to climb the corporate ladder or his mentor wanting to be the the most legendary edge runner ever. And so he's always kind of battling between what he wants to do and whether or not he wants to do something to make himself happy or someone else. The one of the cool things in Cyberpunk, and they have this implemented in the game as well, is you get these cyber kinetic implants that you can add to yourself that will give you some sort of superhuman power, whether it's like knives for arms or some super sight or super speed or super strength, whatever it is. And you can implant them. You can implant as many as you want. However, there's certain things that will, or certain level of tech, and after so many implants, it turns you into a psycho. So there's this cyber psychosis thing that is really prominent in the game and in the show, and you get to see it uh, pretty much like right away. I think like within the first couple episodes, and then towards the end, it's like this always kind of. It's hard to explain. I know I'm kind of like rambling at this point, but I don't know. It's such a great show, and I'm super super excited
So the
that there's
first one's on
something
Netflix,
else coming.
right? The first season's on
Yeah,
Netflix. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that
yeah,
out.
yeah. It's really good. If you're a fan of like I guess the closest thing to call it is like a Greek tragedy, because there's hope in the middle, and you get to see some form of success only for it to be torn down. And it's really cool because in the game, there's always you constantly hear Johnny Silverhand saying that there's no happy endings in Night City, and you get to kind of see it firsthand that there really are no happy endings
Well,
for
I know
people that
you're
live in
you're
that city.
obsessed with like everything Cyberpunk. I know you said you played the game like 100 freaking different times.
I have like 100 hours on the PS5 and then like 70 hours on Steam.
Gosh, dude, I'm
It's
just happy that they're
it's
putting more TV shows like this out, because we got the new Fallout that was announced. You got Lara Croft. You got so many
you have
awesome TV shows.
the new League of Legends show. They're making an animated Splinter Cell show that's
So
been that's been
do you like the
announced.
animated versions more, or would you wish that they would kind of not be animated?
I actually don't mind. For me, it doesn't matter. Like I grew up watching anime and other media like that as well. So I don't mind it. I still watch some to this day. I think there's certain things where it's like, as long as it's not too cartoony, yeah, I'm fine with it.
See, I've honestly never really watched many animated TV shows. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, so I don't know how I'd feel about it. But I mean, I do like I do like Cyberpunk, and I mean, if it was so well received, I mean, it's gotta be good, right? Maybe I just need to get past the whole that it's animated thing and just give it a try and see if I like it.
Yeah, I mean the story's great. Again, it feels, if you can enjoy a story from a video game, you'll enjoy the show itself.
Oh, I'm gonna have to binge watch that first season on Netflix, and then with Megan, if I can get her to watch it with me.
It's only 10 episodes. It's really short, and again, it's a perfect like intro level animated show just because the story is so good, the action is great. Um, I think you'll enjoy it for sure.
I'm gonna take your word on that. So the Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero roster has been revealed, and it boasts a whopping 182 characters for this game. Now, the game releases on all platforms October 11th of this year, so you got about 2 weeks and it's going to come out. And while I'd love to list every single character who's going to be in the game, you can check out the official list over at ever1gaming.com. Now, I probably gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I was never really a big Dragon Ball Z fan. You know, I could respect the talent that's gone into the game and the TV show, and a lot of people who were huge Dragon Ball Z fans. You know, and the game, I watched footage of the gameplay. It looks really cool. You know, it looks like something I'd consider buying. So, like, how do you feel about this game? Do you think it's gonna be another one that you're gonna add to play, or?
I already have it pre-ordered.
Of course you do.
As soon as it was announced, I pre-ordered it. I mean, I grew up on Dragon Ball. Like I remember vividly as a kid coming home from school and turning on Toonami and watching Dragon Ball Z or the original Dragon Ball as well. And it's kind of always been, I would say it's always been like a somewhere enveloped into my life where I'm always watching something to do with Dragon Ball. Even most recently, you had Dragon Ball Super come out a couple years ago, and then I think like three or four years ago, a movie came out. Same thing. It's like me and my roommate, we went to go watch it the day it came out. So
Can you give
love
me
the series.
your best Kamehameha?
No. I love the movie. I love the movie. I love the TV shows, and I love the video games. The really cool thing about the video games is that this one specifically, they're going all out on the lore accuracy. So this is like this perfect. I would say this is like the best way to do a fan service where it's so much content in the terms of like you have, again, like you said, 182 characters throughout 30 years of content or however long Dragon Ball has been going on. They have characters ranging from the original Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball Super to even stuff that is not considered canon, so not part of the original story, in Dragon Ball GT, which is insane. You have a lot. But again,
I know the community is huge for it.
Yeah, and it's lore accurate too. So you have a character that's considerably weak in the show and in the universe. They're going to be very weak in the game. Versus like if you have someone that's incredibly overpoweredly strong, they're going to be incredibly overpoweredly strong in the game. So that's another pretty cool aspect, and that's stuff that I think a lot of people that love these types of games and love the Dragon Ball universe are really going to enjoy. The really cool thing too is they're adding a bunch of different gameplay modes, not just multiplayer, not just single player, but they're adding these custom challenge modes almost. So anyone can go in there and create whatever battle they want, but in order for you to publish it, you have to be able to beat it yourself. So you can make these.
Well, I was seeing too, they're having like special cutscenes for like every battle too, or something like that.
Oh yeah,
everything is like special cutscenes. So like with 182 characters, it's like how many cutscenes do you think they made to do that?
I mean, I think it's taken them like 5 years to make. And again, I'm so excited. I have friends that we're already kind of ready to go. We're waiting for, I think early release is on the 8th.
What kind of, so again, I've never played the game. Like, so what kind of what kind of gameplay? If I've never played a Dragon Ball Z game or Dragon Ball game, and how would you describe this game to me to be able, maybe it's something I would play?
It's hard to explain because it's not like any other fighter where it's
not
I
like
feel
a
like
Mortal Kombat fight or nothing like that. It's not like just a one kind of thing, or
yeah, just because again the character that you choose very much dictates how well you do in the match, because and I understand in other fighters
like a
there's
super weak person that's going against somebody super overpowered and it'd be like almost impossible to beat them.
Yeah, especially because like the moveset. So it's super complex to the point where there's a bunch of different things you could do, because in the Dragon Ball universe you have multiple different amounts of abilities that you can do, from simple flying to be able to teleport behind people, to picking people up and throwing them down, to your blast waves and your special abilities with like Goku having the Kamehameha wave or the Spirit Bomb, and being able to transform and power up and all this other stuff. So it adds that kind of layer of complexities to where it's almost like a Tekken Mortal Kombat level of complexity, but then you also have to bring in the world of Dragon Ball Z. So I would say if you enjoy Dragon Ball, you would enjoy this game. If you enjoy fighters, you might not necessarily enjoy this game specifically, just because of how big of a gap there is between certain characters.
Like knowing who does what, and yeah. And again, like level of strength. Like you'll have characters that are just insanely overpowered, and some characters that are just super, super weak. And if you'd never watched Dragon Ball or never consumed Dragon Ball in any sense, you just would have no idea. Yeah, but there's games though that, like, I mean, I've even played today that I've never watched the TV show for, or movie about, or whatever, but I still enjoyed it. But maybe it's going to be a game that you really have to know what's going on, like you're saying.
I think so, just because and who knows, maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like there's so much to consume. Again, this is probably the biggest roster ever for any type of game like this.
So you would have freaking characters.
Yeah, so you would have to know what all these 182 characters do to even have an idea of who to select. So I guess you can kind of compare this to like League of Legends. Like if you have a new player trying to get into League, it's just going to be impossible for them to be somewhat competent and enjoy the game, because they have to not only know what their character does, but what every other character they could potentially interact with him does, and how to interact with them. And that's kind of what this adds in a sense. So that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like you have to be a fan of the universe to enjoy this, but it's still fun either way.
So basically, if you're a fan of Dragon Ball and you love fighters, then you need to buy this game.
I think everyone that's a fan of Dragon Ball is probably buying this game.
Oh, I might check it out. If you're not a fan of Dragon Ball, check out some gameplay on YouTube and then make your decision.
It's funny because this is the only game that I'll see TikToks of where people don't complain about the $100 price tag on it. Like people were saying,
excuse me.
Yeah, people were saying like if this was like $150 price tag, they're like, I would pay $150 for this game. There's people that are going out and paying $200 for this crazy collector's edition, and but again, like every video I've seen, no one is opposed to paying and shelling out money for this game because of how good of a job it looks like the developers are doing. Like,
well, I was going to say, not even like that, too, like, because you made mention about this before, like, we have no issue paying a premium price if it's, like, a premium game, and like you said, with, like, the amount of content that's going into it, okay, with 182 characters, and then, like, with cutscenes that happen with every single battle, interaction between every single one, maybe it is worth it, because I think I'd rather pay the $100 and get the full game and, every single character instead of, like, paying, $70, $80.
Yeah,
but then having to pay for a DLC later on,
Yeah, and that's one of the things you get with the bigger price tag is you get the entire season pass, which includes, I think it's like 20 or more new characters that are going to be
on top of the 182.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So there's already a list
in this freaking universe, dude.
A lot. There's a list of characters that people are upset that weren't in the game. And again, this kind of, you have to imagine 30 years of characters, and it's not just, so it's like you have multiple versions of the same character. So you have Teen Goku, you have Dragon Ball Z Goku, you have Super Saiyan Goku, you have Super Saiyan 2 Goku, you have Super Saiyan 3 Goku, you have Super Saiyan God Goku, you have Super Saiyan God Blue Goku, you have probably Kaioken Goku.
You're speaking Spanish to me right now.
and that's just one character. Then you even have like their GT. So each character has like a bunch of different iterations of it, which is it's going to be awesome.
I mean, I knew like that, but I didn't realize it was like that many.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm waiting. I cannot wait. October 10th is the early release date.
Jesus, well, I said I might check it out. I don't know if I'm gonna look up some more gameplay and kind of make my decision.
I would say again, like you're saying you're not a fan of like these types of shows, but realistically, I would say check out the show. And if you enjoy the show,
I'm not gonna say I never watched the show. I just was like, I don't know. When I was that young, I think that's like when Pokemon was like really big and all the other stuff. So it's like I kind of favored that stuff more than this, you know. But I'm not saying I wouldn't be into it. I've never, you know, by the time I was done watching Pokemon, dude. I mean, it was like, I don't know. I was too old. I mean, I don't want to say I was too old. I just wasn't into that stuff as I got older. But
and I don't know, and I don't know what it is either. But for some reason, Dragon Ball Z was so big in the Mexican community, even to this day, it's like huge. Like you could go down to you could go down to Mexico City and you would see like murals of Goku, and especially when the creator died this last year, there was an insane amount of outpour in Mexico City because Dragon Ball Z was I have no idea why, but it was such a big part of the culture of the Mexican culture. It's insane. Like I never understood what it was about this specific anime
of all
and
TV shows. Dragon Ball Z.
So it's like
Dragon Ball.
So growing up, like again, I grew up as a little kid in LA, surrounded by Mexicans, and you just see a bunch of Dragon Ball Z stuff. All my friends were into Dragon Ball Z, so it was kind of natural. And growing up, and just watching it, but I think you'd enjoy it though. You should definitely check it out.
I'll check it out. I mean, you haven't steered me wrong yet with some of these games and TV shows. So, I think it was last week or the week prior, you were kind of talking about how the Saudis just have so much money. You know how they're the ones kind of making the funding for, you know, the whole esports coming into the Olympics and stuff like that. So they're making it's actually in development. They're making the world's first city built to play called Qiddiya City. Now, this is supposed to be being developed by 2030, so it's like literally like right around the corner. We got like 5.5 years. Now, it's supposed to be around 334 square kilometers, which is about 129 square miles. So for my Americans, that's roughly the size of Philadelphia. Now, this was revealed in Tokyo, Japan at the Tokyo Game Show, which is the biggest gaming convention in Japan. And that, I guess, the convention hosted like over 240,000 fans and 3,000 global and local exhibitors for more than 40 different countries, and tons of publishers were at this when they revealed this. And they showed off Ubar, which is the first place in here it's a real world cyberpunk lifestyle. And this is going to boast more than 400 tourist attractions, including branded theme parks, arenas, sports stadiums, and stuff like that. And it's going to host some of the biggest sports competitions here. Now, I feel like, again, with you being a huge Cyberpunk fan, I feel like as soon as it's done being developed, I'm never going to hear from you again. You're going to get your passport. You're going to be moving over here and living in this place. How do you feel about this? How cool would this be, too, like if it came to, like, if they had something like this here?
I don't know. It's so weird to see because, again, in a sense, like Cyberpunk, the game in itself is supposed to almost be a satire version of what life would be and how extreme life would get. And it really does a great job of presenting you with the negativity that's kind of involved with living a life like this. So it would be super cool to see, but at the same time, it's kind of terrifying at the same time. It's like people already spend less and less time with real people, and now you're providing them a place to live where you never really have to be you never have to be yourself. You're there, you yourself are there, but it's not you. It's something or someone else. It's like you're being possessed, or you're possessed seeing something else. It's scary. It's terrifying. It's like the further and further we kind of explore and discover in terms of technology, the more that I start thinking like, crap, was like the Terminator like a documentary or something?
Yeah.
Are we ultimately gonna be slaves to the machine? Like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. Because yeah, I mean, it is terrifying.
Well, it makes me wonder too, like, let's just say you were to go live here, pack up and go. Like, what would you do for a job? How would you make money? All the stuff. Unless they're like, hey, because like you said, the Saudis have so much money, they're like, hey, you come here and you live for free, or whatever. Like, it kind of just
No,
makes you wonder where, how it's gonna be.
so you haven't heard about like e-jobs and all that stuff?
No.
So there's again, I don't know if they would do this here, but I know Roblox does this. So you'll like companies are paying people 15 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour to run their stores in Roblox. So like Starbucks has a Roblox storefront, Aeropostale like clothing stores,
You
because
think
they're
they would
just
do that
discovering.
here?
Oh, 100%. Like there's going to be some sort of way to where you're, cuz if what I saw is any sense of like what's going to happen, it's supposed to be like a augmented reality. Like, yes, you're physically there, but everything that's around you is going to be different, and it's going to be a figment of your imagination or other people's imagination. So there's probably going to be some storefronts that are going to be selling stuff and selling stuff that's differently, or food, water, whatever. But again, Roblox does this and you don't get any physical. I don't know if you get physical product, but they do this and people are making real money doing this.
So, besides Cyberpunk, would there be a themed city that you would like to see too?
Um, I don't know. That'd be kind of weird, because it's I think any place that I've kind of wanted to visit, in a sense, like you kind of get a chance to do that with like Disneyland, Disney World, Universal Studios, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like Harry Potter, the Harry Potter area, and I believe it was Universal's. It was pretty cool, but it's just so. I guess I would have to see it first to kind of get a chance to understand it and how it works. Like, I don't know if you've seen that city in China where people don't know if they're on the first floor or the top floor based on
Sounds
the layout,
trippy.
because every single, like, there'd be roads on the third or fourth floor where you think you're on the bottom floor, and then you walk over to the edge, and all of a sudden you see that you're 5 stories up, and you're like, what the heck is going on?
Well, like, I don't know many video games that really have that kind of environment that would really adapt well into like a city, as well as like Cyberpunk would. Because, like, I mean, we got games we play again, like freaking World of Warcraft, Dragon Ball, so that, like, how could that really be adapted into a city?
I mean,
I
you
mean,
have
it would be
GTA.
cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
But how does stuff like that really get turned into a city? Like, Cyberpunk is, I think, a really, really easy one to kind of do. Is.
I think any game where you can kind of lose yourself into a different character, and World of Warcraft does a perfect thing with that, where some people kind of become their character. You'll see people that get addicted to, probably not so much anymore, but back in the day, like there was this big thing where people would be so addicted to playing World of Warcraft that I remember seeing this, like, dad missed his wife's birth because uh, he was playing World of Warcraft. And then his wife got mad at him, not because he missed her birth, but because she couldn't play World of Warcraft. She's like, "You got to play. Why didn't I get to play?" I was like,
Wasn't
"What's
there that
going
guy that
on?"
was playing that was supposed to play Superman or something like that that almost missed the
Oh, yeah,
audition?
yeah. And same thing, like Mila Kunis. She had an interview on At First We Feast, and she was like, her agent would have to log on to WoW to get a hold of her, because otherwise she
Oh
wasn't
my
answering her phone call. And it happens. It's like it happens with any game. You see it with VR chat, where people spend like days playing VR chat. They'll spend 72 hours in the game. Like, they'll wake up, they'll go to bed with their VR headset on, they'll wake up, they'll do whatever they need to do, eat in real life, but still be in the game. and it becomes their life, and it becomes a way of life, and I just
Almost
feel
like
like
a
this is going to
Ready.
do
Have you
the
ever
same
seen the
thing.
movie? Have you ever seen the movie Ready Player One?
Yeah, and that was like I think there's better adaptations of that, but definitely something
Dude, no,
similar.
that
Yeah,
movie was so good.
it's very. I think it was like the story kind of sucked.
Dude,
It was
made me wanna like. I mean, who wouldn't want to escape reality sometimes and live in an alternate world where they're not who they. I mean, you said it yourself, dude. We play games to escape,
yeah. I mean,
reality.
but that's the thing too. It's like I think gaming, in a sense, you are living a different life, at least in that moment in time. Because when you're playing a game, all you're really thinking about is the game itself. You're not living your current life. You're living this character's life.
Just may not be something that you want to do full time.
Yeah, yeah, and like I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I play. I mean, gaming is a huge part of my life. It's just for me. I don't think I could live in that world. Like that would just be insane.
Well, you'd have to be pretty dedicated, a pretty big Cyberpunk fan to be in that 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, again, I may try to make a trip down there, but who knows? We'll see.
We'll go. We'll go on a vacation for a week. We don't come back. 2030. It's
yeah,
right
2030.
around the corner.
Yeah, yeah, 5 years. We'll see what's going on in 5 years.
I don't know. I think it'd be really cool. I think if it's a success, maybe the U.S. can do something like that.
No. I don't think the U.S. would ever do anything like that. You also have to think there's different rules and regulations down there where if you get caught stealing, you're probably gonna get your hands chopped off. If you get caught doing anything, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get thrown in jail. Like here, there's just too many. The law is completely different, and I think a lot of people would get taken advantage of if they're kind of lost in an alternate reality.
No, you're right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, so to kind of wrap things up, man, we got some upcoming games. Throne and Liberty is coming out October 1st on PC, and we're also going to be doing a Let's Play of that on our YouTube. Steve, this one you're going to want to check out. Recycling Center Simulator is coming to PC October 2nd. I know you're a huge fan. Don't tell me you pre-ordered it. Okay, don't tell me you pre-ordered it.
Yeah, I don't think you can pre-order that, but I have it wishlisted. It's in there. I have, trust me, every simulator that's available. I have Deep Web Simulator in my cart right as we speak.
Well, that's why I put this on the list for you, because I knew
it's on a 30% off.
I knew you were gonna get a kick out of it, and that's why I had to throw it on this upcoming games list. So we also got SpongeBob SquarePants, the Patrick Star game, is coming out on all platforms October 4th. Now there are some games that you guys need to check out on Steam that are on sale right now. You got Dark Souls 3 is 50% off at $29.99. You got Street Fighter 6 is 50% off at $29.99. You got Remnant 50% off at $24.99. The Witcher 3 is 75% off at $9.99, and The Elder Scrolls is 70% off at $5.99. So if you guys are looking for some great games that you can get at a budget, you need to check these out. And that's it for. Oh, sorry. Here you go.
I was just gonna say, definitely check out Remnant 2. It's, in my opinion, it's.
Well, I don't know if it's Remnant 2. I think it's just the first one.
No. It's Remnant 2. I saw. I have it on my Steam page too.
Well, shit.
But
I stand corrected.
It is one of the best Souls adaptations I've ever played in my life.
You guys hear it. You guys heard it from Steve. Make sure you pick up that game. If you don't, he's gonna be mad. So that's it for today's episode of No BS. If you enjoyed the unfiltered conversations, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube at No BS Podcast GG, and don't forget to connect with us on X at No BS Podcast GG for all the latest updates and more. Catch us on TikTok as well at No BS Podcast GG. We appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week with more straight talk. No BS.